Looking from a window above, it's like a story of love. Can you hear me? Came back only yesterday. I'm moving farther away. Won't you near me? All I needed was the love you gave. All I needed for another day. And all I ever knew, only you. Sometimes when I think of her name, when it's only a game, and I need you, listen to the words that you say. It's getting harder to stay. When I see you, all I needed was the love you gave. All I needed for another day. And all I ever knew, only you. All I needed was the love you gave. All I needed for another day. And all I ever knew, only you.
Alright, so I'm here at the Bullock Brothers Permaculture Homestead on Orcas Island. And it's pretty much the most amazing place I've ever been in my life.
Take no more. Wonder if you'll understand. It's just the touch of your hand behind a closed door. All I needed was the love you gave. All I needed for another day. And all I ever knew, only you. taking my time on my ride. Oh, I'm falling, so I'm taking my time on my ride. Taking my time on my
ride. If you read our Instagram, which, you know, you probably have a life and you didn't, but I don't, so I did. And I was reading all the comments and there was...
What is this? This is a conifer.
Kitchen waste. We've got kitchen waste that has some moisture to it. Maybe it'd be good to do another layer of kitchen waste with this or something with a lot of surface area to ream it out, and it's going in there anyway, right?
Is that enough green?
Well, yeah. They more so are aerating and flipping, and then he takes his dryness. See how it just kind of drips right off of that soil?
My own dignity, you know? Do you have any food or anything, though? Take it. Okay. If you had an apple, I would take it.
I'm proud of our compost pile.
Facing down, and it'll all just kind of blend a bit better. Yeah, sure, we can do that.
And let's overlap this as much as we can without getting into the chips.
Or we could start on this and then sort of build a bridge so we're not walking on not getting our shoes all fertilized.
Any of you had experience with morning glory in your garden?
Yeah.
How difficult that is?
I hate
We had an area in our garden that got into, and last year, and I watered and fertilized the heck out of it and covered with black plastic to get it. 4 months later, we were able to pull it off and plant a fall crop.
Yeah, I think Katarina...
Yeah, water that cardboard.
You saw that? Like it didn't just bend anymore, it snapped clean. That's the point that you call semi-ripe cutting. If you get all the way down here, this is what we'd call hardwood. This is a hardwood cutting. It's typically semi-ripe you'd be doing in summer. Hardwood cuttings are typically in the winter. Not universally true, but by and large, that's how it goes.
Why those different times of years for those different woods?
So hardwood is all you have in the winter,
I see.
right?
Yeah.
In the temperate.
In the temperate world, yeah. In the temperate world.
When we really want to find them. And so now I'm starting to see there's a individual plant that doesn't look very healthy.
Each of those little individual plants is what you call a crown.
Yeah. Okay. Or each one could have a crown, right? The crown would be the very top part. This would still be called the roots, but people would say, how many crowns do you want for asparagus? Right? You buy and buy the crown. Because you can have runners on bamboo. This is a clumping type. But a runner on a bamboo, it'll shoot up, but it might not have its own satellite roots yet. So you might have to wait till the next year to divide it off. So I just don't want to let these things dry out, so I'll go right into the pond with something like that.
So depending on the structure of the flowers, how it might get pollinated. These are very flat and open flowers, really important for pest predators. So they're great nectary plants. These ones with lots of little flat, shallow flowers like this. Let's talk about some other flower types. You know these flowers? Right? Yeah, peas and beans. Up and protected inside. So they actually self-pollinate before they even open. They're pollinating at this. As the things develop, how do we know when it's ready to harvest? How do we know when the seed's ripe? In this case, which seed there is ripe? Tell me. How can we tell?
Drier.
the color, the dryness, and what we call shattering. Shattering, right? How do we know it's ripe? Right? How about this? These guys were
on the wind.
these guys are popping. Right? They're telling us they're ripe and ready to go. So the trick though is to let them be ripe enough to harvest but not escape. You know? So the trick is to capture them right at the shattering time. So I like to collect in the morning when it's still damp, things are calm, things aren't so shattery, they're still kind of moist and sticking to each. Capture them, and then in the midday lay them out, and then do the seed cleaning midday when it's nice and dry and they're brittle and you can break them up and clean them well. So we'll mash them through the screens. You know, midday they're really crunchy. You can sift them to get the dirt out.
And scoop a bunch of coals out of the fire and just lay it on top. Now plastic is difficult, right? So a metal tray would be better, but just lay them on there, or you could do it on the stone outside or on the sidewalk or something, but lay some coals on top of it and let it cool down completely, and then they'll grow. If you have slimy seeds, like you know, some berries, let's say you're traveling, you were from Chile or New Zealand and you came here and you found salal, right? Salal. And you take it in a great way when you're traveling is just to smear it out on some newspaper or some paper towel and let it wick. You know, just let it wick off and put that in the sun and dry out. And these have gotten significantly drier in a half an hour.
What does wick mean?
Just it evaporates off and all the moisture goes out into the surface and you have a large surface for evaporation. And they dry out. And anything slimy, passion fruit, tomatoes, sea buckthorn, you know, you just smear it out and stick it to the paper. Some blackberries, same thing. A lot of parts of the world they have blackberries, but they're not like ours. Imagine having blackberry vines everywhere that don't taste good and hardly have any berries. West Coast, we got one of the best blackberries there is. And it is a problem because it's invasive and we have to prune it out of the landscape. It keeps coming up, as you know, just everywhere. But you know, it's a good blackberry. So don't do that. How are we doing on time?
We have 15.
Is it like this the entire way? Just a lot of...
Mateo and who else?
Mateo and Max, who brought stuff.
Nice.
Brian wrote you vows, like come on.
Totally knew.
Come on, no fucking way.
He's always like, he's just always tries to anticipate. It's amazing. Don't worry. Everyone pronounces my name wrong.
It tastes like a maple syrup pear.
I had a variety in Florida that was pink inside and tasted like marzipan. You know, and as a culture, we didn't eat that many big animals until we had electricity. People would eat them in the winter when they would freeze. So it allowed airflow through, but it shaded everything. And inside the louvers were things that looked like giant radiators, like car radiators or wall radiators. And water was always moving over this. So there was a pressurized water system from a reservoir that fed the whole, and there was no power involved. You know, that would act in reverse. If you tried to get it even colder, the ground would act as a heat sink and keep you warm and keep you. So you'd have to insulate from the ground, and I don't know how that would work. Like, could you have that to rock you down, but then you could get colder? Have you seen those ice chests that you plug in to your car?
Yes.
Right? Have you seen those?
Yes.
They got a thermoelectric wafer, just like generating electricity from your wood stove. And it's called the Peltier effect. Trellises off the north side of the windy side, so you've got grapevines or something, whatever it is, transpiring moisture into the air and the breeze, cooling the air before it gets to the house. West facing or east facing is not really what you want. You know, you want sun. Think about your winter. It's easy to get enough sun or solar electricity in the summer. It's easy. We got long days. In the winter, you know, your sun angle's way down there. You want to think about it. If you're thinking about passive heating in your house, get it from a whiteboard and the description of something that is physical. Electricity is invisible and it's theoretical in its life. Nobody's guessing. We think it probably works like this.
It behaves this way.
Yeah.
We've noted.
If you want to get to the point where you can visualize, just drag a magnet along a wire. It's like combing some of those electrons down the wire. And you can make it a lot more efficient by coiling that wire up. We've got big old Mr. Sun shining, and we got a solar panel, and it's usually you've got 2 layers. And the sun heats up one layer, let's call it silicon and germanium. And the sun heats up one layer, the molecules get all excited like they do with heat, right? They're moving faster. Some of their electrons jump off onto the other material, and it gets taken away into a wire. Make sense? You're not contributing to wars to kill people for oil. Isn't that enough? Yeah. You're not paying a bill to a corporation that you don't like their ethics anyway. Any one of those should have been enough. But people were worried about that in the industry, so they started framing it about payback instead of like all these other benefits. Because there's all these other benefits about it, and learning about your own system and taking responsibility and all kinds of stuff. So for years the payback didn't work because solar panels were very expensive. And now the price is like less than a fifth, even in dollars. But in terms of earning power now compared to 30 years ago, it's really cheap. Like our first panels, we bought a little 50-watt panel, and it was like $500, and maybe you made $6 an hour.
LCB.
Linear current booster.
Linear current booster. Woo! And it kind of senses what the load is, what the use is, and it'll adjust. It's like shifting before you go up a hill in a car. It's like an automatic transmission. It'll downshift. It'll give you a little more power to start the pump on a gray day, or when the sun is on an oblique angle. It's not maybe full blast on the array. So it'll start the pump earlier, keep it running longer. Goes generation of power, regulation, so we don't overcharge the battery, and then a distribution load center. There's also some switches so you can disconnect the power from the array, you can disconnect the batteries. Hair, rip, head grind.
Oh my God.
Okay, now we can talk. Check the temperature, it feels good. It's hot, but it's not too hot. With motors, if you can't put your hand on it for like 10 seconds, then it might be a little too hot. LCB, remember that? Yeah. Realize that they kind of corrode quite a bit when you let them sit empty. If they're always full of water, there's not as much oxygen, and so they don't corrode that fast. These are cast iron pieces, so we're thinking of what would be the best material to coat them with, like some kind of light wax, or a light oil, something that won't degrade the rubber or leather parts that are inside these things. Because fat wires can attach to skinny wires, and they have a screwdriver or an Allen key sort of thing that you can crank them really tight and make a good electrical connection. They're made of special metal.
24 volts.
So we've taken two 24s and made 48, two 24s and made 48, and then combined those into 2 groups of 48. 4 groups of 48. And when the 2 of them were going, we're doing pretty good keeping up, but just the pump, the big green one, hasn't been quite keeping up.
Yeah, that way. That looks cool. Alright, now you can look at the camera and make funny faces if you want. Nice. Awesome.
Oh my god.
Good job, huh?